Hello and welcome to the first Brego monthly leisure intel update. My name is Rupert Pontin and I'm head of insight and communications at Brego, and I've had involvement in the leisure sector since 1992 when I first joined Glasses as the caravan editor. Over the years, I've had extensive exposure to leisure markets, leading teams that have researched, valued and reported on product, valuation, reports and market trends as well. The Leisure Intel reports and broadcasts look at what happens in the touring home, holiday home, motorhome and camper markets, along with a high-level review of the UK economy, just to give a background as to what's going on and its impact on leisure unit sales. Going forward, expect to see a monthly Brego broadcast for the UK automotive sector, but also, as we are today, for the UK leisure market. And next month, we'll extend that so that there'll be Brego broadcasts to cover the motorcycle industry and the LCV market as well. So, for the August Leisure Intel Market Update, let's have a quick summary of what's happened in the UK economy. And it has been a little bit frantic. The global economy remains cause for concern, although there have been signs of stability in certain countries as Trump's trade tariffs begin to be agreed and everything begins to settle down. There's been little or no progress in the Ukraine war, peace negotiations, and many feel that Putin now has the upper hand, or certainly feels he has, and that's a little bit worrying and still causing some concern across the globe. Inflation in the UK has increased again to 3.8%, which is not what the government needed at all. And that's the second month running that this has happened. And it is now the highest since it was in January 2024. Transport costs have jumped by 3.2%, and that includes airfares that jumped a whopping 30.2%, which is probably in some ways quite good news for the UK leisure sector, as it's meant travel abroad has been quite expensive for families trying to go on holiday, and therefore they've stayed in the UK. The bank base rate was reduced to 4% on August the 7th, and although the vote was split, it should help consumer confidence, and there's certainly been signs of that during the course of the month. There's also concern that it'll be the last rate drop this year as the government spending begins to spiral out of control and tax increases are forecast for the autumn budget. We need to watch that as we go forward. Business confidence is reported quarterly and it is sitting at -27, and that's an improvement of 5 points from -33 according to the CBI, although the forecast is still for this to drop to -29 in Q4 after dropping to -31 by the end of September. Consumer confidence is edged upwards and improved slightly from -19 points to -17, which is a surprise, but gladly welcomed. And it's likely to have had a positive impact on the retail leisure markets. And I think that's going to be obvious when we start to look at the stats. Average mortgage rate for a 2-year fixed mortgage is consistent at 4.52%, and the 5-year is slightly higher at 4.55%. And that's up 0.05 according to Rightmove data. The major purchase index has dropped by 1 point to -17, which is not the end of the world, but is a slight negative setback. If we're looking at fuel cost, the price of a litre of unleaded fuel has shifted from £1.34 on July the 31st to £1.33.9 on August the 31st. And that's for a litre of unleaded. And diesel has gone from 142.1 to 141.6, so slight drop there. Unemployment remains static at 4.7%, and there is genuinely concern that this will begin to rise with the September update, which we'll have to see about later in September. So let's have a look at the UK used leisure market, and this is using Insight. This is Insight using Brego Whole Market data, and we're going to look at 3 sections here. We're going to look at touring homes, holiday homes, and motorhomes. So these are just headlines of what's been happening with the data that we've seen in the marketplace. So for touring homes, total adverts are down by 9.4%, and that signifies that there's been quite a good market with higher sales, and that's probably reflective of the UK weather. And I would suggest also the drop in the bank base rate. There is, of course, a possibility that there's been some distress selling or sale activity, which, to be fair, is unlikely for August. Perhaps later in September, October time, that might be a factor, but not now. Two-berth adverts were down by 13%, and that supports the increase in sales I've just talked about. But remember that only 17.8% of total adverts in August were two-berth caravans. The four-berth adverts were down by 7.5%, so much lower, but they hold 59.1% share of the market, or they did in August, of total adverts. and hence a larger proportional ratio. From a days to sale perspective, they sit at 48.7, and that's slightly higher than it was in July, but it does indicate a level of consistency in the marketplace, which is a positive news. From the point of view of the average used price of a touring home, the price has increased by 5.1% to 16,366, and that suggests that cheaper tours sold. There were more cheaper tours sold, and that's hence driven up the average price. When we move to holiday homes, total adverts are down by 9.2%. So that's fairly similar to touring homes, and that reinforces that strength in the leisure market overall. There is unlikely to have been any form of distress selling, so it really probably does reflect the actual sale activity. Two-bedroom adverts were down by 1.7%. And that's fair, given the market, but perhaps also there are more two-bedroom homes that have come to the used market, so keeping that level of advert fairly high. But when we look at three-bed, the advert volume is down by 22.9%, and that is a significant change, and that probably is reflecting both demand and probably a potential slight shortage of stock for those three-bed homes. From a days to sale perspective, we're looking at 53.4, and that's down from 71.3 days to sale in July, and that's a big difference of 17.9 days. Was this because of the weather, consumer confidence, or was this with the summer sale activities? It's a little bit difficult to tell, but from the data itself, it shows that a number of older units were sold very quickly at a fast rate, and coupled that with the fact that there were fewer Willoughby models sold, and Willoughby models have a higher days to sale. So that has probably been, those two factors have probably been the driving force behind that change in days to sale. The average used holiday home price went up by 9.5% to 23,056, and that probably helps support that previous explanation around the average days to sale. So just corroborating that really. From a motorhome and camper perspective, total adverts were down by 5%, so less than the touring homes and the holiday homes, but it still signifies that there's been a pretty good sales rate out there during the course of August. The number of trade adverts is down by 4.6%, and that shows that there's been, that good activity, sales activity of the dealers, and perhaps highlights that there's a bit of a slowdown in the market. Sorry, not in the market, but in stock availability. So maybe not so many units being coming through and advertised for sale, which is possible at this time of year. Private adverts are down by 7.4%, so a little bit higher, and that's probably higher than expected, but it could be due to sales, but also during the course of August, the market, the weather was pretty good, and a lot of people were out and about using their motorhomes and campers, and during that period, highly unlikely that they'd be advertising them for sale. So it could well be down to the fact that the good weather has impacted the number of private sellers advertising their motorhomes and campers. From a days to sale perspective, it's at 67.3. That's down from 73.7, a difference of 6.4 to 4 days, and that again supports that reported increased sales activity. The average used motorhome and camper price went up by 9.5% to £58,896, and again supports previous explanation in the average days to sale, and also in part driven by the reduction in the number of private adverts that tend to be older, cheaper models. So it's helped boost that average price up a little bit. So in summary, August saw increased footfall and demand. That's largely down to consumer confidence and the weather, and probably coupled with a little bit of competitive sector pricing, depending on which market vertical we were looking at. There are more customers that are keen to commit, and that is likely due to the bank base rate and generally the summer feel-good factor. So that's a positive. Stock is beginning to start to look short for some variants, some holiday homes, some touring homes in the market, and the different market verticals have different drivers, and you can see that by looking further into the data. But there is the potential for that to continue as the market quietens. And then there's just one slight thing to say, we're heading now towards a quieter sale period as we move towards the autumn period and the winter months. So just a little bit of caution out there in terms of what you're looking at to stock and what you're looking at to sell and what may happen to sales rates. So if you need to improve your market insight and understanding of the nuances in today's UK leisure markets, then you really need to have a chat with somebody from the Brego sales team, and they will show you how that Brego pricing platform and our market data is going to help you to improve your understanding and ultimately increase profitability for your business or your park. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.